Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world, and welcome to our Henley and Partners webinar on tax planning and global residence with a focus on Asia Pacific. I'll just allow a moment or two for the people joining the call to all be joining, and then we will start. I can see a few people starting to sort of log in as we go. So welcome all of you to this event. I We're going to talk about a little bit about introduction to Henley and Partners, trends in the wealth migration industry, and we're going to focus on the tax issues of investment migration, looking with a specific focus afterwards at residence and citizenship programs across Asia and Pacific when I get my teeth in straight. And then we'll have space for questions and answers as we go. There's a little question Q&A box you should be able to see somewhere along the little ribbon at the bottom. And we will either deal with those as we go through or we will cover those at the end. I'm Peter Farino. I'm the Director of Tax Services here at Henley and Partners, and I am joined by a variety of my esteemed colleagues from all around the world, including William Langton, Director of Private Clients at Henley in Dubai, Emil Damasak from Henley in Bangkok, and down under we have Tony Leneves from Henley Australia and Feroz Khan from our Singapore office. And they will be talking about the individual programs in the countries or regions that they are responsible for. And so they will be joining us later on in the show. They're here now, as you can see from their little video pictures. So a little bit about Henley and Partners. Obviously, you're on the call, so you know who we are, but we're the world leader in residency and citizenship by investment. We have more than 70 offices around the world now. We've been in the industry for more than 25 years as one of the major companies in the industry. We have now over 50 different options for people who want to change countries, either from a residency or citizenship perspective. And over those 25 years, we've advised over 25,000 clients and more than 15 governments. And as the investment migration is a way for governments to raise money from foreign direct investment, we've actually been involved in raising over $15 billion for those 15 countries. Not exactly a billion each, but an average that's pretty clear. And those are the two sides of what we do. Henley and Partners, we have both the private client service, which is the individuals looking to move, and then advising the governments how to make their country attractive to those people. So I think it's quite a unique blend of knowing what the people are looking for and where they want to go, and looking who the countries are trying to attract and how to make it attractive. And I think that is what has been the key to our success in expanding continually around the world, aided, of course, by the fact that we're living in a quite interesting world at the moment, where the option to go and live in another country may be needed or not, and just having the optionality to be able to do that is very useful for many high net worth families. So here are our offices around the world. We are in every continent. We are in all the countries where we have either a significant outbound population or where we have significant programs where people are moving to. And you can see, these spots on the map keep popping up with alarming regularity. And we are opening more of them all the time. So there's both to be near where the people are moving from and to where they're moving to. And we have particularly an increase in the number of offices in the US, for example, in the last couple of years. Not sure what's behind that. I'm sure there's something. So let's look at the trends. Where are people going? Where they're going from? Where they're going to? Because millionaires relocating is something we've been tracking for over a decade now. We either get occasional snarky comments in the newspapers. Well, a company that advises people on changing countries says people are changing countries. Yes, that's obviously we're interested in understanding this to help us ensure that we're in the right places and why. This trend is fairly consistent. Obviously, the number of millionaires in the world tends to nudge up every year as well. There was a small gap. I can't remember why that was a few years back now. It's all in the dim, distant past, but that has all resumed and people continue to move. And also, it's not just the millionaires moving, it's their wealth that's moving with them. And I think that's the most interesting aspect to this. 150,000 or 142 this year, 165,000 next year. That's a lot of people and even more money. Where they're going from and where they're going to. This is the one that gets a lot of interest at the moment is the UK seems to be the place where people are going from. There's been an increase, the UK changed its tax rules a few years back to say that foreign nationals who used to have a very generous tax exemption in the UK now no longer will have that. It was capped and then it was gradually reduced, and finally it's been limited to 4 years. And so wealthy foreign nationals who'd always found the UK a good place to base themselves are now thinking, well, this is not the best place to be anymore, even allowing for the fact that the weather and the food maybe have been something you put up with for a good tax situation, but maybe it's not something there. Now, this is also net. So this is outflows minus inflows. And part of the UK's attraction also, or part of the outflow is increased by the fact there just aren't many people going there anymore. It was often a logical place for Japanese or US companies to base their European headquarters, but since Brexit, then the UK not being part of the European Union makes, from a business perspective, it not to be the place that it used to be. So that's really the twofold aspect of that. China and India are just very, very large countries with very large millionaire populations. And as they move around the world, expanding their business interests, then they are just going to be towards the top of that just because of the size of them. South Korea is always interesting there, just the numbers, and Russia and Brazil obviously have their own challenges why people move. But you see a good broad variety of places where people move from, and the interesting ones that Germany and Spain are in there now as well, where they've all Spain's often been a net inbound place for millionaires, but with the changes to the wealth tax, not so much anymore. And where they go to, obviously, any list of this will always have the UAE at the top, which is why we've got William here, even if arguably it's is it APAC? Well, it is, but so it's just always top of the list of where to go because it's just so welcoming for all people that want to move and migrate. The US, because it's just such a large market, if you're moving particularly if you're an Indian or Chinese millionaire that's looking to expand your business, the US is often the largest market, particularly in the tech sector. Whether recent changes will mean that's still there next year and the year after is a very interesting debate. But if you look, I talked about people leaving the UK, and when they want to go somewhere in Europe that's close by, Italy is and Switzerland are the big ones that really getting a lot of attraction, a lot of interest. An awful lot of, Italy's almost had a strategy of almost targeting people leaving the UK just to build up the financial sector in Milan and elsewhere because it's just so convenient to be back in London in 2 hours. And quality of life is always important. Now, Saudi Arabia has attracting a lot of millionaires from other parts of the world as well. Singapore just as its regional hub. So you see there's a variety of places there. Portugal and Greece also within Europe, and Canada and Australia again for the English language aspect we've tried to sort of map which of the leaving countries map to which of the joining countries. It's not always been the tidiest of exercises, but you can see where people have gone from, but not always to. But you see, these are where the money is moving from. And you look at the fastest growing markets in the number of millionaires in the country, then you see similar now. Places like the UAE and the US are still top there, but places like Poland and Malta, the number of millionaires increasing there. Poland, a lot of that is, some of that is home generated as well. Montenegro, the percentage is high because the absolute numbers started from quite low, but Montenegro is, a fast rising country as well for wealth migration, interestingly. Costa Rica and Panama are at the bottom there. They're very good tax systems, but if you're interested in those, we've got a separate webinar on Latin America next week where we'll be talking about them in more detail. So I've talked a little bit about tax, and as a tax person, I can talk about this all day, so I do apologize if I'm trying to keep it short. Residence is talked about a lot as residence by investment, but one of the things it's always helpful to start these conversations is by reminding people that residence and tax residence are two entirely different things. Residency is the right to reside in the country, and that's an immigration status. Tax residence is the right of those tax authorities to tax you based on your physical presence there. Residence is a right, tax residency is an obligation. So they're two sides of the same thing. One's a privilege, one's a cost. And tax residence is typically obtained by being present in the country for more than 183 days, either as tax year or rolling 12-month period. But I always tell people this is not symmetrical. Being over 183 may make you tax resident, but being below 183 is not necessarily enough to prevent you being tax resident, particularly if you've got your permanent home, main home, available accommodation, or centre of interest in that country. And everybody's facts and circumstances are subtly different, as indeed are every country's tests. So it's perfectly possible to be resident in more than one country. Sometimes it's even possible to be more than two. Unlikely, but it's in that case, though, you have double taxation agreements or treaties to avoid double taxation, as we should call them. Rather, double tax agreement almost makes it sound like it's trying to tax you twice, but it's trying to prevent that being taxed twice happening. And in those cases, you often need an assessment as to which country is able to tax you as a resident, which one is not able to tax you as a resident. Now, being a tax resident is not an all or nothing game. There we are. If you are a non-resident, you may still be taxable on income that you earn in that country. Um, so country taxation only works on a source basis or a residence basis. So if income arises in a country, that is the country of source, and that country may have the first right to tax that, even if the person earning that income is living outside the country. After that, the country where someone is tax resident of, which is their main home, has the right to tax their worldwide income. But if the source country has already taxed, usually the second country should give some relief on that to ensure that the tax isn't paid twice. Now, it may be that if the source country taxes at 20%, the residence country taxes at 30%, you'll have the additional 10 to pay, but you won't pay 50 at least. Finally, the US is the only major country that taxes on the basis of citizenship. I think North Korea does as well, but that's more of a theoretical exercise. And I think Eritrea does as well, but we don't see a huge number of Eritreans here. Um, and so the US will always tax its citizens on worldwide income. So typically, country of source tax is first, country of residence tax is second. And for the privilege of being a US citizen, a green card holder, the US will come along third and sweep up anything anybody has left behind. Countries tax on a variety of bases, though. So just because you're a resident and just because you are taxable on your income, then the most likely thing for most mature developed economies is taxing residents on their worldwide income. And that applies to most countries in Europe and the OECD and most other major economies, Australia, Canada, etc. And as I've said already, the US has an enhanced version of that. Now, many other countries take a more restrictive version of that, and they don't necessarily exercise their right to tax absolutely everything. And often that comes from a variety of reasons. Either if you're quite a small country with a small population where people haven't historically had much income outside the country, or if you're a regional hub and you're trying to position yourself as being a place where you want people to come and do business for that region from there. And that's why a territorial system will often be popular in places like Singapore and Hong Kong, and also, as I mentioned, Panama and Costa Rica, but we're not talking about them till next week. New Zealand also has an incentive that gives you effectively a territorial system for the first 4 years. Now, as a subset of territorial or sort of an enhanced version of that, income earned in that country or brought into that country could potentially be taxed. And that's called a remittance basis when money is remitted to that country. Some countries just don't have tax at all. And our good old friend, the UAE, is very attractive for that purpose. It does have corporate tax, but that's only for companies, logically enough. UAE and Monaco and the Bahamas have no tax at all. And so what we often do where people are saying, well, where do they need to go for tax purposes? Say, well, what type of system are you looking for? That's always the first point. It's okay, let's try and define which system first and overlay the system and the geography and then see what we end up with. Now, for the ultra high net worths, some countries have said, well, if we just have a flat capped amount of tax, whether it's 100,000 euros for Greece or 200,000 euros for Italy or 250,000 Swiss francs, or varying depend for certain by canton level in Switzerland, then all foreign income is taxed at a simple flat level to keep it simple. And yeah, those systems are useful as well. None of the countries covered today have that, but particularly in Europe, it's a good compromise between residents and worldwide income, and giving enough of a tax take to justify people coming there. So that's a little bit about setting the scene about what the tax systems are as you move. So let's talk a little bit about the residence by investment programs across Asia Pacific. And you've heard enough of me for now. So I'm going to hand you over to the legend that is our head of Australia, Mr. Tony Nevis, and Tony will talk you through the map, and then he'll take you through the first couple of countries, and then hand the baton to the rest of the guys as we go through. So over to you, Tony, and I will be back later on. Thank you.
Great, thanks, Peter. I guess you're running the slides, so I'll just call you on that when I need the next slide. Good afternoon, good morning, good evening, wherever you are, everybody. Tony Leneves is my name. I'm the managing partner for Henley and Partners in Australia and New Zealand. I'm based in Melbourne, and as Peter mentioned, I'm going to cover two of those programs there shown under the Oceania part of the map, Australia and New Zealand. And Nauru, that's an interesting program. That's a citizenship program, a very interesting one that Henley and Partners is involved in. Now, we're not covering that one tonight, but in this part of the world, Australia and New Zealand have got some very interesting programs. So we'll run through those. Next slide, Peter, please. We're going to start with the Australian program. There's a lovely photo of Sydney Harbour for you. The Australian program, it's an interesting program. It's not an investor program. That's one of the key differences between, I guess, the Australian program and lots of the others that you'll hear about. There's no investment required for the Australian program. It's a talent program. The government introduced this program in 2019. It was called Global Talent at the time. We had a change of government in 2022. They made some changes to that program and renamed it. It's now called the National Innovation Visa. But essentially, the program has remained unchanged. It's a permanent visa for exceptionally talented people from around the world in certain future-focused industry sectors, and a few other groups who can come to Australia, contribute their skills, their experience, and benefit and provide a benefit to the country. As I mentioned, there's no financial contribution processing. It says on this slide 6 to 12 months. Our experience is a little bit slower than that, actually. Probably 9 to 12 months is more realistic. But there is no age limit for the National Innovation Visa. If you are over the age of 55, it's a little bit harder to qualify for this program, and that's because 55 is the minimum retirement age in Australia, and the government's not really aiming this at retirees. So it's for people exceptionally talented in their field who are happy to come to Australia, bring their skills, and provide some benefit to the country. It is a permanent visa, and so there is an option to move to citizenship if that's attractive to you after a certain period of time in Australia. It's also that final point there on the right. Those people looking at alternate residence because of education reasons, perhaps you're looking for education options for your children, university or college education. Well, the National Innovation Visa is a terrific option because it is a permanent visa, and that means your children will be permanent residents and they'll avoid the international student process. Australia has a lot of international students here, but of course they pay international student fees. If you get one of these visas, then you study in Australia like any other Australian citizen or permanent resident. Next slide, please, Pete. So it is an invitation-only program. The way the program works is you put to the Australian government what's called an expression of interest. You tell them you're interested in the role. You need to be internationally recognised and outstanding achievements in your field. and you need to provide evidence of that. And that might be evidence of what you've been doing, senior roles, patents. You can read that, professional awards, perhaps international publications, and so on. You need, in your expression of interest, to tell the Australian government why they should give you one of these visas and how you would be an asset to Australia. It says there easily gain employment. It's not an employment visa. You're not required to work in Australia. They just want, as I said before, it's not a retirement visa. This is a program for people who actually want to do something in Australia. You also need to be nominated for the program. Now, that can be an individual in Australia in a similar field to yours, or it can be an Australian state or territory government agency. And we've had some experience with getting nominations by Australian state and territories. I might just kind of expand on that a little bit. The government is looking essentially at global researchers, entrepreneurs, innovators and investors, or innovative investors. And there are fields for athletes and creative talent. And here at Henleys, we've actually assisted a few creative talent applicants for this visa fairly recently. If you fall into one of those categories, they then look at a priority category assessment of you. Priority 1 is for people with top of field awards. Priority 2 is for people that have been nominated by an Australian territory government, state or territory government. And then priorities 3 and 4 are where the future focused industries come in. And there are 9 of them that the Australian government has nominated, and they are critical technologies, health industries, and renewables and low emissions technologies. They fall into the tier 1 sectors, and then the tier 2 sectors are agri-food and ag-tech, defence capabilities and space, education, financial services and fintech, infrastructure and transport, and resources. So if you are working in one of those fields, or you have a business in one of those fields, or you're an academic doing research in one of those fields, or you're a recipient of top of field award, we'd like to hear from you. The Australian government would like to hear from you, and you might qualify for this visa. And as I said, it's very popular because it's direct to permanent residence, and there's no investment required. The next slide, Peter. Okay, so that was just a very brief overview of the Australian program. I could talk for a lot more, but I'm conscious of the time limit. Let's move on to New Zealand, just across the ditch, as we say here, or as the New Zealanders say. Now, this is a completely different program. The New Zealand program is an investor program, an investment residence program, and I can tell you it's very, very popular at the moment. It's proving to be one of the most popular programs this year that Henleys is marketing. And there are good reasons for that. New Zealand, obviously one of the most stable and well-governed nations in the world. It's got a terrific reputation for business. I think these days it's no secret that New Zealand is as far away as you can get from global hotspots around the world. We have a lot of interest from people out of Europe wanting to move away from some of the geopolitical issues that are happening in Europe at the moment. Also, this program is very popular in the United States, and for reasons people are seeking to move on from the United States. You can see it is a visa that leads to permanent residence and then citizenship after 5 years. What else can I say about New Zealand? No gift tax, no estate tax, no wealth tax, no capital gains tax. It's very attractive, and Peter mentioned the first 4 years there are some tax benefits if you move to New Zealand. Next slide, please. So it is a pure investor program. It's called the Active Investor Plus program. There are 2 categories. There's a $5 million category and a $10 million category. The 5 million, these are New Zealand dollars. The 5 million New Zealand dollar category, which at the moment that's around about 3 million US, is a 3-year program. During that 3-year period, the minimum amount of time you need to spend in New Zealand is 21 days. And your investment goes into managed funds or direct business investments. The managed funds, typically that will go into private capital, venture capital, private equity, and so on. So it's more high risk, but it is 3 years, and it is a very low minimum resident period of 21 days. At the end of that 3-year period, you get your investment back, and you are eligible for the permanent visa, provided you've spent the 21 days in New Zealand. And critically, that 21 days only applies to the primary applicant, not to every member of the family. The balanced category, just staying on that previous slide there, Pete, for a minute. The balanced category, that's a $10 million program, so $6 million US, but that allows a much broader range of eligible investments, including equities on the New Zealand Stock Exchange, bonds, managed funds, and so on. So you can choose much lower risk investments for the 10 million program, but it is a 5-year investment period, and this program requires you to spend a minimum of 105 days in New Zealand over the 5-year period. Again, that 105 days only applies to the primary applicant, and at the end of the period, again, you redeem your investment and you're eligible for the permanent visa. So look, that was just a very brief overview of the Australian program and the New Zealand program. We could do them in a lot more detail, but we do from time to time have very detailed webinars on these programs in Henley's. Tonight's not about that, just giving you an overview of the program. And I think I will now hand over to William to talk about the UAE.
Great. Many thanks, Tony. And indeed, good morning, good evening to everyone on the call. By way of just a brief introduction, my name is William Langton. I'm director at Henley & Partners, and in particular, I look after the real estate advisory part for Henley & Partners when it comes to acquisition in the UAE. So as Peter mentioned earlier, the UAE has been attracting a considerable amount of interest and migration over the past year. We will obviously go into slight detail in terms of why that has been the case. There are multiple reasons, but for first and foremost, I think it's just easy to get to the point in terms of what the requirements are. Now, in comparison to other programs that we have at Henley & Partners, the UAE Residence by Investment program is relatively straightforward. It's very simple to get your head around, or I hope it will be. And there are several other routes that can be taken, but by far the most popular route has been the real estate acquisition route for the UAE. Now, the main reason why that is the case is that over the last 5 years, ever since the heady days of COVID, the UAE has been the best performing market in anywhere around the world. Generally, we've seen increases of around 150% across the board, with Miami coming in second at about 130 or 120%. So really, there has been a lot of interest as a result of this from a pure real estate perspective. And on top of that, the Golden Visa program provides a very easy and value for money option when it comes to actually being a resident here. So there are 2 routes we can really look at, starting at the 1 million AED or 275 USD, but this is applicable to those who are 55 and above. More or less, this is taken as a retirement visa as such, and this is only applicable for or only the term for 5 years rather than the 10 years. The other side, and the most common route for every other applicant above any other age, is the 2 million dirham route at 550,000, and this will provide a 10-year term. So really the value for money here really does come into perspective, because the UAE and Dubai in particular, which has led the surge in the UAE market over the past few years, is seen in comparative to other countries around the world as exceptional. The price per square foot for prime property in the UAE or in Dubai is around about 550 per square foot USD. So compare that to other markets, where particularly London, which is where I'm from initially, you're looking at about 3 times that for something in prime. So this is where you can find something really exceptional for a third of the price. Now, moving in terms of the acquisition, in terms of funding is concerned, you can obviously look at this from a cash perspective or mortgage. But important to note that the most important fact to bear in mind here is that the 2 million dirhams that you pay, over 550, must be in cash. Now, you can obviously take a mortgage, but the 2 million must be used on your own cash to boost that. So if you're looking at a 4 million dirham property, then 2 million would obviously need to be in cash to actually qualify for the Golden Visa. Now, we have an abundance of broker partners who can assist in this field in terms of if you need assistance in this, but essentially that is what we need to be looking at as a minimum level. So this is for completed properties. One other thing you can look at is the stage of the build. So whether you're looking completed or looking at off plan. Now, the same rule applies in terms of the equity contribution from your good self, but the construction of the building or the development must be at least 50% completed by this time in order to be qualified. Other things to bear in mind as well is processing time, which is exceptionally quick. You're looking here in terms of the property purchase taking 2 to 3 weeks if looking as a cash purchase, potentially up to 6 weeks if looking by mortgage. And in terms of the actual visa process itself, we're looking at 7 to 10 working days approximately. So just in terms of the UAE and why people are looking to move over here, well, there's an abundance of reasons, but if we look at both a lifestyle perspective and also financial perspective, then there's a lot of reasons. Lifestyle in terms of climate, it's a very lovely climate, although the last few months have been a little bit hot during August, but now we're getting into the lovely winter period, which will last up until February, March time. In addition, you've also got just exceptional quality for life. It's a very healthy, well-being place to be with exceptional infrastructure and transport to like as well. We're also seeing an abundance of growth in the financial districts of DIFC and the ADGM. This is Dubai Financial District and the Abu Dhabi global markets. Here we're seeing enhanced regulation take place, giving financial investors more confidence in the ability for their funds to be protected. And in a sense with this, we're seeing greater and greater regulation as the years improve, giving more safety. But in terms of other factors, we have obviously in terms of who can be included on the actual application itself, it's very direct. So applicant spouse, unmarried children, and in addition to parents as well can be included. And obviously, as Peter mentioned, it's probably well known around the world, but the tax system is very, obviously a very much attractive reason for people to be here. No income tax, no inheritance tax, no tax of any kind when it comes to a personal individual. As Peter mentioned, there's corporation tax, but that is really it. So from a financial perspective and in terms of wealth accumulation, the UAE really does tick a lot of boxes, both in terms of that, but also lifestyle. So that covers me for the UAE. I hope you found that interesting, and passing over to Firouz to talk about Malaysia. Thank you.
Thank you, William. A very good evening to you all from Singapore. A bit of an introduction. My name is Fairuz Khan, Associate Director at Henley & Partners based in Singapore. I'm also the Program Manager for the Malaysian Premium Visa Program. Now, I'm very excited today to speak to you about the Malaysian Premium Visa Program because this is a program that doesn't really get a lot of coverage. I'm sure that there are many of us here who may have heard of the My Malaysia Second Home, which is MM2H in short. But the PVIP essentially is a program that not a lot of people cover, and I'm sure it's going to be exciting for you to learn about it today. So just to give you a very quick overview here of the program, the PVIP is essentially a 20-year multiple entry visa with an option to extend for another 20 years. So in altogether, you're essentially getting a 40-year visa with the right to live, work, settle, and study in Malaysia. Unlike the Malaysia My Second Home program, this particular option allows you to work in Malaysia, which is something that a lot of people would love to do. Now, there are, in terms of the qualifying requirements as well as the benefits that comes with it, it's very similar to the Dubai Golden Visa, which William just covered. It allows you to work, settle in Malaysia, study in Malaysia, and also bring along your extended family members to the country, which I'm going to cover a bit later. This is also a program which does not require you to make the investment first. So essentially, you can apply for the Malaysia PVIP with just providing evidence of proof of income. And you also must show that you have the financial means to qualify for this. Once your application is submitted and you receive your in-principle approval, you then must make a bank deposit of 1 million ringgit. Now, not to get too much into numbers, but there are some key qualifying requirements for you to be eligible to apply for this once you're approved. And the first thing is you must place a fixed deposit of 1 million ringgit, which is approximately about 236,000 US. 50% of this amount can be withdrawn after a year, which is what you can also use for your medical expenses. If you wanted to buy a property in Malaysia, you can also use for various other expenses as well. Now, one key difference between this and the My Malaysia Second Home, which is essentially a retirement visa program, is there is no minimum stay requirement. So if you are based in Singapore or Dubai or any other place, you can continue to renew your visa, hold your residence permit. You don't have to come to Malaysia. You can just have this residence visa as a plan B if you are to ever relocate to Malaysia to work or start a business or buy properties. Next slide, please. Now, one of the key questions that I get from clients globally is why would they choose Malaysia and not places like Dubai or London or any other a country that also offers a high quality of lifestyle? Now, I'm sure we all pretty much know that Malaysia is right next to Singapore. We actually have seen an increased interest for the Malaysia program from countries like Singapore, the US, Canada, and even Australia. A lot of the expats living in those countries, as well as citizens of those countries, are exploring the Malaysia Premium Visa program because they feel that it's very strategically located, offers quality, high quality of life, excellent healthcare, education, infrastructure. It's also right next to Singapore. A lot of our private clients have businesses in Singapore, so they really like the idea of having a residence in a country that is right next to Singapore. And obviously, the biggest upside to Malaysia is the very low cost of living. So we have a lot of clients that holds employment passes or permanent residence of Singapore, but they prefer to live in Malaysia and they really don't mind commuting from Malaysia to Singapore if they have some business. Now, as I mentioned earlier, it's a 20-year residence visa. It comes with an option to further extend by another 20 years. So all of your family members get a 40 years visa. Everybody has the right to live, work, and settle in Malaysia. The other upside to this program is not only you can bring along your parents, but you can also sponsor your parents-in-law to come to Malaysia and live and have a base there. I mentioned earlier that there is a 1 million Malaysian ringgit, which is their local currency bank deposit requirement. The good thing is, of course, there's no tax on the interest that you will make, of course, from the bank deposit there. So that's pretty much it. We will cover any Q&As later. I'll now pass on to Emil to cover Thailand.
Thank you very much, Fairuz, and thank you everyone for joining today's webinar. My name is Emil Demasak. I'm a Director of Private Clients at the Henley & Partners office in Bangkok, Thailand. I'd like to speak with you today about two residence programs in the country. The first one is the Thailand Privilege Residence Program, and then also I'll be covering the Thailand LTR or Long-Term Residence Program as well later on. So starting with the Thailand Privilege Residence Program, this program provides long-term access to Thailand in the form of either 5, 10, 15 or 20-year visa through a one-off fee to the Thailand Privilege Card Company, which is an affiliate of the Tourism Authority of Thailand. So as I mentioned, there are several different options here. Starting with the Bronze Card, which offers a 5-year visa for Thailand through a 650,000 Thai baht one-off payment, which is approximately $18,000 US. For this particular option, other family members and dependents cannot be included. So the cost is 650,000 baht per family member. This option is available until the end of this year. We don't know whether it will be extended any further, but it is currently available at this time. Moving on to the gold card. This was the standard 5-year visa option that was in place before the bronze card was introduced. The cost is 900,000 Thai baht for the 5-year visa, which is around $25,000. One difference with this particular option is that holders of the gold card receive 20 points per year to redeem services. Services would include discounts for shopping or spa treatments, or perhaps golf, or even insurance premiums in Thailand. Once again, dependents cannot be included for this particular option. So currently, it would make sense to opt for the bronze card in terms of the 5-year package. But once the bronze card expires, the gold card will remain in place as the 5-year option for this program. There's a 10-year visa option, which is the platinum card, which is priced at 1.5 million Thai baht, or approximately $42,000. With this particular option, it is possible to include other family members. That would include parents, step-parents, a spouse, including by civil union, children and stepchildren. So essentially, with this particular option, the additional fee per family member is 1 million Thai baht, which is about $28,000, and 35 points per year allocated to holders to redeem the services I mentioned previously. So, for example, for a family of 3 people, I'd be looking at a total cost of 3.5 million baht for 10-year visas. There's also a diamond card, which is a 15-year visa option priced at 2.5 million baht per person. It's possible to include additional family members at a cost of 1.5 million Thai baht per person. For this particular category, 55 points per year allocated for redemption of services. So there will be more points there for discounts for shopping and other benefits. There's also a reserve card, which is by invitation only. This is a 20-year option priced at 5 million Thai baht, or around $140,000 per person. Additional family members can be included for additional cost of 2 million Thai baht, or around $55,000 per person. And there's also 120 points per year allocated per person for redemption of services. All of these options are quite interesting in terms of providing long-term access to Thailand. It's not feasible to work legally within the country on this visa. However, it will provide individuals and families with the ability to spend time in Thailand, as much or as little time as you wish during the validity period of the visa. And it is possible indeed to set up a company in Thailand and to install yourself as a director, but it's not feasible to obtain work rights in Thailand through this visa. It's particularly popular amongst families who are looking to relocate to Thailand for lifestyle purposes, or indeed for digital nomads who are looking to work remotely from the country. As I touched on previously, it's possible to include dependents such as parents, step-parents, a spouse, including same-sex spouses, children and stepchildren. There's also applications submitted before the 31st of December this year under the platinum, diamond or reserve tiers, a promotional rate of 500,000 Thai baht for each dependent included in the application. So this won't be available for too much longer, but it'd be possible to include an additional family member for those categories for only 500,000 baht per person, rather than the fees that I mentioned when running through the options. So that's a summary of Thailand privilege, and then we'll move on to speak about the long-term residence program now. So this is a 5+5-year visa, which is renewable on the condition that the applicant continues to meet the requirements of the program. It's particularly interesting because it's possible to attach a work permit in Thailand to 3 of the 4 categories of this program. So it would provide the ability to work in Thailand, but you will need to obtain a work permit through a registered Thai company. Now there's 4 main categories here. The first is the wealthy global citizen category. To qualify, the applicant must have $1 million in global assets. This could be in the form of real estate, funds in bank accounts, an investment portfolio. And alongside that, the applicant must invest $500,000 into either Thai property, foreign direct investment into public or private companies or into Thai government bonds. So those two conditions both need to be fulfilled to qualify. Now, one interesting point about the long-term residence visa is that, again, under 3 of the 4 categories, there's a tax exemption on foreign remittances into Thailand. The tax laws within the kingdom changed last year, such that if you now remit funds into Thailand at any time, they will be subject to personal income tax. There are some caveats, but that's a general rule that's been in place since last year. But under this particular program, well, 3 of the 4 categories of this program, there's a tax exemption on any money you bring to Thailand from overseas, which is a very significant benefit for tax residents of the country. The second category is the wealthy pensioner category for people aged 50 and over. The requirement here is that the applicant must have a passive income of at least $80,000 during the past year prior to the date of the application. When we're talking passive, we mean income that perhaps is derived from rental income from properties, could be through dividends, interest on funds in bank accounts, anything that is essentially not generated through active employment or self-employment. If the applicant has an income of less than $80,000 a year, but at least $40,000 a year, it's also possible to qualify if the applicant invests $250,000 into either Thai property, foreign direct investment into companies, or into Thai government bonds. And just to mention briefly that when we're talking about Thai property, we're referring to freehold ownership of condominiums, which is legally permitted for foreigners as long as 49% of the unit space in the condominium building is foreign owned and 51% is Thai owned. It could be a lease of a property in Thailand, such as a villa, house, or land. And the lease term could be up to 30 years legally in Thailand. The minimum lease term must be at least 10 years to be able to qualify for this program. The third category is the work from Thailand professionals category, which is for individuals who work for overseas corporations remotely from Thailand. The requirement here is to have an annual income of at least $80,000 during the last 2 years. If the applicant has an income of less than $80,000, but at least $40,000 per year, then it's possible to apply, provided the applicant has a master's degree or above. Alternatively, the applicant needs to own intellectual property or to have received Series A funding. Now, the employer must be either a public company outside of Thailand or a private company that's been in operation for at least 3 years with a combined revenue of at least $50 million over the last 3 trading years to qualify. Next slide, please, Peter. Thank you. The final category is a highly skilled professionals category. Now, this is for individuals who are already working in Thailand, either for private businesses or for government agencies. Now, there's a set of targeted industries for this particular category. So you do need to work within certain industries to qualify. It's required that the applicant must have an annual income of at least $80,000 per year during the past 2 years. The applicant can still qualify as long as their income is at least $40,000 per year, provided they have a master's degree or above in science and technology or special expertise relevant to their job assignment. Applicants working for Thai government agencies are exempt from the minimum personal yearly income requirement. And the targeted industries are varied, but include certain education industries. They include luxury tourism, and there's various other categories. If you're working in Thailand, we'd be happy to assess your eligibility for this category. Now, for this program, when applying, it's possible to include dependents, which can include a spouse, also same-sex spouse, and children up to the age of 20. Once the child reaches the age of 20, he or she will no longer be able to continue on the visa. So to summarize, Thailand is a country that offers an excellent quality of life. It's very affordable. You have a lot of contrast between the cities such as Bangkok and Chiang Mai, the countryside regions such as Chiang Rai, Khao Yai, and then also the various islands which attract year-round tourism. Now, with these particular visas, there's no minimum stay requirement, so you can spend as little or as much time in Thailand as you wish. So they're very flexible. The key benefit attached to the Thailand long-term residence program is the tax exemption on foreign remittances into Thailand for all categories except for the highly skilled professionals category. For that particular category, holders benefit from a flat personal income tax rate in Thailand of just 17%, which is significantly lower than the high earning top bracket in Thailand, which is 35% for high earners in the country. And then, of course, we have the two programs available with differing benefits. We have the Thailand Privilege Program for individuals who are looking for long-term access to the country through a simple one-off fee to the Thailand Privilege Card Company. We have the LTR visa, the long-term residence visa, which has more qualification requirements, but does, of course, have those added benefits such as the flat personal income tax rate, the tax exemption, as well as the ability to attach a work permit to most of the categories should you wish to work legally in the country. So that's a summary of the options available in Thailand.
Well, that was very comprehensive. Thank you, Emil. So we just summaries in the interest of time. I'll just zip through this. As we've seen there, I think everything is different. There's an alternative for everyone here, and I think, as I said at the beginning, you sort of need to think about what you're looking for first, and then see which country's got the right program. So it's whether people are looking to retire, whether they're looking to work, whether they're thinking about family and education, whether quality of life. And I think there's a whole variety of programs there, all of which cover, anything you may need. Tax is an issue everywhere, but it's not a primary driver between many of these programs. But as I say, certain countries like Thailand and Malaysia have made it very clear that they're very happy people just to be there to spend their money rather than trying to tax the income as well. New Zealand has that sort of balance for the first 4 years. And Australia is like, nope, it's very clearly not a tax exemption. It's a talent program. So the talented people will get taxed in the same way as the normal ones do. And UAE, of course, has no tax at all, which makes it really, really simple to do that. Now, we do have two very quick questions here. Farouz, on the subject of Malaysia, you talked about the platinum visa category here, and you said that the Malaysia My Second Home program was different. Now, Mr. Anonymous or Ms. Anonymous is asking, isn't MM2H better because it doesn't ask for fee for dependents, etc. But I think you said that there are differences, aren't there? And I think
Yeah, so certainly, yes, and a very good question here. There are certainly differences between the two. However, it really depends on, your objective and your family structure as well. I mean, I've obviously covered the premium residence visa program. And the age limit for dependent children, if you are to apply as the main applicant, is below 21. If you have kids who are older than 21 but below 34 and you want them to be included in the application, you can consider applying for the platinum category of the MM2H. However, I mentioned earlier there is actually no real estate investment requirement for the PVIP. If you are going with MM2H, there is a mandatory real estate investment requirement, and the property price has to be worth a minimum of 2 million ringgit. The bank deposit requirement for MM2H under the platinum category is also higher than the PVIP. PVIP requires a bank deposit of 1 million ringgit. MM2H under platinum category requires a bank deposit of $1 million. So there's obviously a very huge difference in terms of investment into real estate as well as a bank deposit under MM2H.
I think you said you can work under PVIP, but you can't under MM2H. Did I
No,
hear
so under both PVIP and the platinum category of the MM2H,
Yeah.
you can work in Malaysia,
Yeah.
but the key difference here is the bank deposit requirement is higher with the platinum category, and there is a mandatory real estate investment as well. So if you're okay with those two, you can certainly consider the platinum category of the MM2H.
And so but the best thing to do is for them to call you and you'll take them through the options. That's the simplest answer. Yeah. Say that. Emil, there was a question about Thailand as well here. So do participants need to report themselves to the authority constantly every year? Well, I'm not sure what meant by constantly there or which authority, but do people need to sort of check in with the various with somebody wearing a uniform once in a while to prove that they're in town? What's the situation?
Yes, it's a good question. So there's actually a difference between the two programs here. So with Thailand Privilege, you're required to update your address for every 90 days of continuous stay in Thailand. This is actually done for you by the Thailand Privilege Card Company. So you can simply drop off your passport at their service center, and they'll actually organize that for you through the Immigration Bureau. This is again for every 90 days of continuous stay. So if you exit the country within that 90-day period, it will reset back to 90 days as soon as you re-enter the country. So it's only for continuous stay. For the Thailand Long-Term Residence Program, you're required to report your address for every full year of continuous stay in Thailand. So again, if you were to leave the country within every 12-month period, it will reset from the date of re-entry. So most of our clients never need to report their address at all with the immigration authorities in Thailand because they will typically tend to leave the country within every 12-month period. But if you happen to stay for a full 12 months in Thailand without leaving the country, you will need to report your address to the immigration authorities. It's quite a straightforward process. And indeed, there are ways to do that online. So you don't actually have to necessarily visit the Immigration Bureau in person as well.
Okay, well, that's really helpful, and I hope that sort of clarifies that. It's report. As Grace's reporting can sound a bit sinister, but if it's just sort of notifying sounds a lot less sinister than reporting, doesn't it? And just for them to know where people are is one of their requirements, I think. So I think we're coming to the end of the hour. Thank you very much to all of our speakers and participants. Thank you to all of you for diligently sticking with us till the end, and also thank you for those great questions. We will be back with more Henley webinars at various times so do look out for that. We're covering Latin America next week, as I said. But otherwise, feel free to reach out to any of us should you have any further questions or want to know any more. But thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.